if it hasn't been said, it is now. That this is how I think the failure happened, is why that glue line failed. Cyclic fatigue of the glue. Every time they go and do a dive, the hull would collapse in the center. Not a lot, nothing you would actually see with your eye, but it's still enough that the outside edge would cantilever out. So this had to happen extraordinarily fast, which means the people in there had no idea this was coming. I just want to make sure that, you let the public know that nobody was suffering in there. As a matter of fact, they were probably they were all waiting to see the Titanic when this happened. So that would be it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You've just heard the voice of former Oceangate contractor Tim Catterson. Catterson also makes an interesting observation about the acrylic viewport.
The implosion happened instantaneously, that it was not the viewport that failed because there was no shards, there was no viewport, there's nothing. The viewport was blown out. It's out there somewhere still.
It's interesting that the viewport is still out there and that it was never recovered. So can it really be definitively excluded? If it did blow out, it suggests the pressure released on the front or fore side, not the aft side, which makes sense. Now, Catterson helped launch the submersible on the morning it imploded. Thus far, besides mission specialist Renato Rojas, Catterson is the highest ranking person from or affiliated with Oceangate who was part of dive operations at the time of the implosion.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Catterson has said there were, quote, no red flags, and you've just heard him say, like Renato Rojas, they were probably having a wonderful time, they were probably happy right up to the moment they died. They were happy and they didn't suffer. Easy for you to say, Bub, but I wonder what the 19-year-old would say if he was here to say anything. Would he say, I didn't suffer? Or would he say,
I'll tell you where I've been. First of all, not that I ruined your weekend any, but I was dead!
Now, I'm not trying to make light of this. It's not a joke. But what is also not a joke is how 1 week into the hearing, halfway through the Coast Guard's hearing, we still haven't come close to getting an official explanation for how and where the craft imploded. There is this explanation, and do you think it's adequate? Do you think the Coast Guard themselves have paid much attention to it? Because they really didn't seem to want to indulge Catterson in his scenario. So what did happen? Where was the fatal flaw? And given the new information, the new photographs we've gotten, can we definitively say what has happened 1 year later? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So do a Google search right now on that question, and the latest analysis is still more than a year old. In other words, how did Titan explode? There's really no current analysis on that. So I think it is necessary to revisit that question now about what was the fatal flaw and where was it and why did Titan implode, but also to think critically about Catterson's view, because let's face it, he was part of Oceangate's Kool-Aid crew who seemed to defend the vessel right up to the moment it imploded, and here he still seems to be defending it. It's also interesting that Catterson blames the glue and the glue connections for the implosion, and I think he also talks about cyclical fatigue of the glue, something I've seen and heard repeated elsewhere, but I would say mindlessly. without critical thinking. Do you agree with that? That it's the glue that was the weak spot here? I don't agree with it. Does it make sense? I don't think it does, but let's listen to more of what he says.
When there was not enough glue line, there was not enough support by that titanium edge on the inside to maintain the pressure integrity. And it had to have happened equally all the way around that ring.
So do you see, Catterson seems to be saying the flaw is basically the glue, that the craft came unstuck essentially, and that this was due to cyclical fatigue in the glue.
Because on the forward ring, on the very inside, that inside tab, go out and look at it, touch it, run your hand across it. It has been sheared off completely all the way around inward. The only way that would happen is if it all happened at once. If it happened partially at some place, it would have ripped and tore and then equalized in there, and this other piece, the other remaining piece of that material would stay intact. But that is not the case. It is on the aft end, but not on the forward end. That thing was sheared off smooth. So this had to happen extraordinarily fast, which means the people in there had no idea this was coming.
Well, I think Stockton did have an idea, and P.H. Nargile may have as well. We actually don't know if there was a series of cracking or popping noises on the way down, or if there were they reported. It's also possible there was a groaning and cracking that took place seconds before the implosion. So I wouldn't be too quick to sketch it as a wonderfully painless, unexpected experience. Well, it may have been. I do think Catterson's testimony has some worth, has some value, in the sense that he was there when the Titan was salvaged. He inspected it directly, he touched it, and he looked at it. Curiously, the two words entirely missing from the 6-minute clip of Catterson's testimony are the words carbon fiber. And if you look at some of these simulations, for example, from engineering.com, I tend to think that is where the fatal flaw was. That was the experimental area. Also, if you read between the lines of Catterson's scenario, he's saying the carbon fiber sausage kind of flexed and distorted, and it was these inflections that wore away at the glue. In his analysis, the glue is the culprit, but he's still in a way indirectly saying, well, there's a flexing going on with this carbon fiber, right? Now, maybe the glue area sheared off in the implosion, maybe it's true that part, but I think it's far more likely the implosion happened to begin with because of the weakness of the carbon fiber, because of it flexing to a point of destruction. And that is something Catterson remains in my opinion, complete denial about. And then he says this.
And stayed out there on the horizon while we were doing the recovery. I was there mostly to help them to decide, are these dangerous items here, such as the high pressure tank that was down there? What exactly should they be looking for? So things like that. So I was basically out there to kind of point out, get this, or, can we do this type of stuff on what to bring up. And so when we did this, we recovered the forward dome, the 2 rings, the aft dome we weren't able to bring up, but at that particular time because they ran out of time. And we brought up the tail piece and some parts of the skids and, various pieces and bits, which you've probably seen. Out of this, I think I saw it as it came up and went on the deck. Literally, I got I was literally positioning them on the deck at times for them to tie it down. And the things that I saw on that gave me reason to believe that I feel I know where the failure was.
Do you think he's right? Did Titan simply become unstuck? Well, hopefully through the course of this hearing, we've got another week going as from this week. We'll have engineers providing definitive answers to that question. Thank you for listening. I'll be doing a live stream on the Team Petrie channel on Van Gogh Letters number 88. It's been quite a long time coming. That'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So look out for that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.